Before we get into at the mics, this NCAA, I'm really curious. This rule that the NCAA is going to crack down on head cracking hits and even ejecting players from games for these head-to-head helmet collisions. They'll use replay systems to determine if it was actually a head-to-head hit or whatever. And if you get ejected from the game in the first half, you get ejected for the whole game. If you get ejected in the second half, you get ejected for that second half and then the first half of the next game.
Right. And listen, right now it still has to pass, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it still has to go through some.
It's a proposal right now.
Right. It's a proposal right now. 15-yard penalty, now have ejection tacked on, assuming the playing rules oversight panel approves it next month. So here's what I'm always one of those guys that complains about the helmet-to-helmet stuff from the National Football League, because the National Football League always wants to talk about changing the culture of the league. And what do they do to players? They throw the 15-yard flag and then they fine them oodles of cash, right? That's not changing the culture of the league. This, to me, is one of those things that will change the culture and the landscape of college football. And I'm okay with this. Now,
you mean taking them out of the game, not allowing them to play?
If it's determined that there is malicious intent, and you can go back to video replay and see a guy launching, like a torpedo to a guy's head, yeah, I'm okay with that. Now, if I'm coming at you at your chest and you duck down and we accidentally hit helmet to helmet and you want to throw a 15-yard flag, I understand that.
Right.
But that cannot be an ejectable offense.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is this, Mike. If you can take some of the malicious contact out of the game by changing the culture of the game, which this rule actually does because it hurts the team, and if you hurt the team, if you're a starting safety or a starting linebacker and you're one of the best players on that defensive squad, and all of a sudden you're out for the game in the first half of the next game or whatever the case may be, guess what your coaches are going to start coaching you to do? Not launch. That's what's going to happen. Not the $50,000 or $100,000 fine that's a bunch of garbage from the NFL. The NFL doesn't do that because the NFL doesn't truly want to affect change. They really don't want to. The NCAA wants to affect change. I'm okay with this rule. The NFL ought to actually read this little bylaw and see what happens with the NCAA, then maybe adopt a real rule that will actually affect change and actually change the culture a little bit, as opposed to just taking money away from players, which to me is ridiculous.
It's very